Greetings, one and all, and welcome to Seven Kinds of Mischief. I'm your host, Stone Loki, and with me, of course, is the one, the only, the Doctor of Disaster and Destruction, Adega Outlaw.
The clown rocking in the corner. Why am I here? Why? Why am I here?
Are you ready? I'm ready. We're all ready.
I'm ready.
You
Hello,
want to
everybody.
get nuts? Come on, let's get nuts.
Oh, wonderful evening to all of you. How's your week?
Indeed. Oh, yeah, crazy. Crazy, absolutely crazy.
I
Started off crazy, it's gonna end crazy.
I completely understand. Everyone be nice to Loki. He's had a crazy week. But if you find him in some street corner and you happen to have a bat, smack him upside the head. He needs it.
Oh, yeah, I'll probably be sitting there going...
Sorry, Chris, I'm not going that way tonight. Loki might, but I'm not going to be freaking people out too much. I am going to do something a little different this evening. Mostly because my week has been extremely crazy as well. Not dramatic-wise, but... You know, when you have to go to court for guardianship for your kid and you have to do this and that, there's a lot of different things for you when you move, especially when you are dealing with special needs homes and this and that and the other. It's been fun. I'll go that way. And it actually has gone pretty smoothly, but just busy. New deadlines to make for work and all that fun stuff.
Oh, for a moment, new deadlines to make for work. You almost my automaton.
Project to finish. Yeah, project to finish. Designed to make. And Mr. Gillard must have his steampunk engine or steam engine done, or steam engine design done on time. Yes. Sorry, I forgot how it went.
Oh, I love it. I absolutely love it.
My beautiful automaton. All wound up, ready to go. I'm going to have to memorize that sometime. Or you can play it again whenever you want. I don't care.
Yes.
Any day, anytime.
Shit.
Must be done.
Done on time. Go, my automaton of death. Oh, shit. Yes, absolutely. What do you got for us tonight?
Another kind of mischief, and it's not my normal as always. Well, not as always. It's not what I normally do. This is, I decided there was something I was kind of working on, didn't get it completed. So what I'm going to do is kind of a narrative, and you guys can fill in the gaps. We're going to try and do this without getting the show canceled, but also so it can get to the point across. And then I want to read something different. It's a current day news article, and it fits with some of the stuff that we've been covering. Anyway, forgive me if I fumble with this because I am jumping words here and there, trying to mix match and make things work, and see if you can figure out what I'm talking about. Let me see. The following is a history of how things have been done with the propaganda campaign headed by the current administration. The ministry's aim is to ensure that the woke message was successfully communicated through art, music, theater, film, books, radio, educational materials, and the press. There were several audiences for the woke propaganda. Americans were reminded of, and I guess it could be the world population because it's not just Americans, though we seem to be affected the most. Americans were reminded of the struggle against the Russians and white subversion. During periods that preceded the legislation that's being produced, there were exclusive measures against the white supremacist. Propaganda campaigns created an atmosphere tolerant of violence against the whites. Particularly, propaganda also encouraged passivity and acceptance of the impending measures against the far right or whites, supremacist, as these appeared to depict the woke government as stepping in and restoring order. Real and perceived discrimination against the ethnic minorities in many nations was pushed through this propaganda against the whites. This propaganda sought to elicit political loyalty and so-called race consciousness among the ethnic population. It also sought to mislead foreign governments that the woke Americans were making understandable and fair demands. All right, now this part I kind of have to skip. So anyway, this is an actual historical document. All I did was replace two names. Can you guess what they were? Go ahead, Loki. I'm sure you know.
Right wing, white. Right wing and white?
Now, the woke is
Woke?
a Nazi. The woke is a Nazi party.
Really?
The white was the Jews.
Oh, wow.
And see how it matched exactly what was going on now with the propaganda campaign.
Yes.
Now, we see things in our media, in our music, and different aspects of society. It could be in the government. It could be, like I had that list on there. All of that stuff. Let me pull up that list again, because this is the same stuff that through the fandom menace we're being enlightened to all along the way. Let me see. Where was the list? Yeah, I'm not finding it now. I just had it too. Basically, it was any periodicals, any movies, any music. All of it was done to help encourage people to believe in things that just aren't so. And the things that just aren't so happens to be the woke propaganda that is going on now. It is plain to see through. And it makes you wonder, too, because the people who propagated those things back in history were willing participants of providing lies, providing hate towards a specific group, and destroying the current culture. That is being exactly duplicated. And believe it or not, I didn't give you the pictures, but I have the receipts that show that these are the same people that did it then that are doing it now, just using a different vehicle and a different target. It was Jews once, it is whites now. Okay, now on to something that does kind of relate to things that we have talked about before, and unfortunately this comes from CNET, which happens to be MSN, which you guys can kind of understand the news, though this article isn't too bad. We have talked about how the modern day movies and music have been propagating and showing blatantly in your face their belief in Satanism, abuse of people, different things. And I don't know if any of you have known, and maybe some of you out there in the chat have seen this recently, but there was a pair of simulated Nike shoes, and a lot of people reported them as Nike shoes that were satanic and had a drop of human blood in them. Well, here is the news article, and we're going to go ahead and go through this. What could possibly connect rapper Lil Nas X? Nike and sneakers made with human blood. Strap in for an explanation of one of 2021's most colorful news stories. It calls it colorful. Okay. And I can't call this guy a musician, especially when you see the video that's associated with this. Musician Lil Nas X collaborated with streetwear company MSCHF on a quickly sold out gather that, sold out. Makes you wonder. Offering of what the company dubbed as Satan's shoes. You could probably Google a picture of these real easy. They not only have a devil-focused theme, but contain a drop of human blood drawn from the people at MSCHF employees. The company confirmed this. Because the shoes are apparently modified Nikes, the company didn't appreciate its branding being associated with human blood and the devil. This is where you can see the stupidity of some of these reporters. She put in, duh. Okay. The company confirmed Monday that it's filed a trademark claim against the MSCHF and wants it known that it isn't officially sanctioned by Nike. When I first heard about this story, it was propagated that this was a Nike shoe, but it's not. I don't know. You don't have a picture of that. Let me see if I can get you a picture of it real quick.
Awesome.
I'll have it for you in Twitter right now.
Awesome.
It's loading.
Oh, looky there.
Yep. Yeah, Andrew, who knows? I don't know what the cost is, but that's probably right.
It's not going to like possess my computer, is it?
No, but it certainly looks like it would.
Oh, yeah, it does. Okay, give me 1 second. Loading up. There you go.
There it is. Look at the nice contact lenses. You could see the pentagram on the top, and those shoes have the little, looks like a Nike swirl on it. And they contain a drop of the people's blood that actually made that. Okay. Let me get here.
Haster says it would be funny if they cost $666.
Yeah.
And you 46 and then 2, do they cost $666?
Right. I have no idea how much they cost, but more than likely it's some derivative of that, you know. Lil Nas X, who's 21 years old, is perhaps best known for his enormous 2019 hit song, the Western-themed Old Town Road. I have never heard this guy's crap until today. I wanted to pursue this and see what it was, and then I heard he's got this new song. We'll get to that in a second. It talks about how he set records and Super Bowl stuff and Doritos. The devil-themed song follow Lil Nas. I guess it's called Montero. It's pretty disgusting. You don't want your kids to watch it. It's basically him at life and being judged. He thinks he's going one way, then goes down to hell and takes over. It's really, really disgusting. But remember, I have told you that these people put it in your face. Do you think this was his plan? I'm sure he didn't design the video. He didn't design the shoes. He just a paid actor to play a part. Put on contact lenses and allow them to shove this in your face. Normalize what used to be called evil, because the practices slowly work into society of, and you know, people think of Satanism in a lot of ways, but the biggest thing about Luciferianism, Satanism, isn't so much some of the stuff that we talked about, the human sacrifice, the bloodletting, all this stuff. The biggest thing is about selfishness, complete and utter selfishness.
Hey, he's got one of his eyes covered up.
Right. I didn't catch that until you said that, but that's exactly what we pointed out before. Thank you for bringing that up.
You're very welcome.
But the big thing about it for the general populace, not the ones that control it, is do whatever you feel to whoever you feel, whenever you feel, because it's our religious belief. And that's what they go by. Whatever makes you feel good. Doesn't matter who you hurt, where you hurt, why. So that's what I have for you. A little brief news. a little update, and there you go, right in your face, folks. Stuff you may not even have known.
With the eye thing, I mean, I was sitting here. I was like, he's got one of his eye covered, just like we talked about before, covering one of the eyes up as they're
Yep.
mind cleansing and manipulating and
Yep.
doing all that shit.
Means he has been MK Ultra'd. He is what do we call it? A public slave. He has handlers. They tell him what to do, where to be, what to go. As soon as he steps out of line, he will disappear from the limelight and be left impoverished like so many others. Like I showed you the picture of the Disney girls. All the ones that did the Disney movies when they were little kids, now they're all skanks.
And welcome back to the channel, RR.
RR, hey bud.
These people are psychotic gives a whole new meaning to just do it.
Truth. Absolute truth.
Absolutely. So, I have got a story for you guys tonight. It's called The World's Best Psychologist. It's over on Creepypasta. Let me get you the link if you would like to read along with us tonight. That's totally up to you. There is the link. This was written by Creepy Carbs. When I was 12, I came to the conclusion that everyone in the world, including my own family, was against me. I was never a problem child, but my parents sure treated me like one. For example, I used to need to be home by 5 every day. This clearly restricted my amount of playtime outdoors. I wasn't allowed to have friends over to play at the house, nor was I allowed to go over to anyone else's house. I had to finish my homework directly after I came home from school every day, no matter how long it took. And my parents, they refused to buy me anything. They refused to buy me video games, forced me to read books, and then write a book report on them to prove I actually read them. Now, even though those rules listed above were quite frustrating to me as a child, they aren't what upset me most. What really hurt me was the lack of compassion on behalf of my parents. My mother was a bitter woman who always made me feel guilty about accidents or mistakes I made. My father only knew one emotion: frustration at me. The only time he spoke to me was when he screamed at me for receiving poor test scores or beat me for misbehaving. But enough about them. Let's talk about my school's psychologist. For his own privacy, we will call him Dr. Tanner. Now, like most junior high schools, a psychologist is always available on campus during school hours to assist any students in need of counseling, whether it is emotional, academic, social, behavioral, etc., etc. To be honest, I've never seen any students talking with Dr. Tanner. Every day, I would walk past his office on my way to the cafeteria, peek through his door's little window. He would always be alone in there, working on some project or paperwork. I guess that most kids were too afraid to speak about their problems to an adult who was practically a stranger. For this reason, it took me 3 weeks to muster enough courage to go into his office. March 2nd, 1993 was the day I decided to voice my troubles to Dr. Tanner. During lunch break, I stood in front of his office door, and I knocked. Through the window, I could see him raise his head, smile, and motion for me to come in. I went in. He greeted me by introducing himself and asking for my name. Dr. Tanner was a very soft-spoken man who seemed to radiate kindness. In less than 30 minutes, I rambled to Dr. Tanner about how mean my parents were to me and how they didn't care about me at all. After a while, my voice began to quiver and I stopped speaking. Psychologist listened patiently to my whole spiel, arms folded, head nodding. I have expected him to begin talking about how everything I had just said was untrue and that my parents loved me dearly and blah, 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 yakety smackety. But he didn't. Dr. Tanner leaned towards me with a grin on his face and said, I'm the best school psychologist in the world. I promise we will fix this. Of course, I rolled my eyes. Okay. Yeah, but how? I asked. I have my ways, he replied. I'm a man of my word. I promise that within just 1 month, the relationship between you and your parents will change for the better. Forever. After a brief pause, he continued, although I do need you to make me a promise. You have to promise me that you'll come back to my office after school tomorrow and that you won't tell anyone that we have had this conversation today. Be our secret. I promised. The following day, I returned to Dr. Tanner after school. It was around 4 p.m. when I entered his office. After a warm welcome, he asked me to have a seat in front of his desk once again. Upon sitting down, I watched Dr. Tanner close the blinds of the door's tiny window. There, he smiled. Now we have all the privacy we need. We began to talk about my likes and interests, my favorite subjects in school, my least favorite teachers, and things like that. About an hour into the conversation, Dr. Tanner offered me a soft drink. I gladly took the offer, considering my parents never allowed me to have soda. Dr. Tanner reached over to his mini fridge and fidgeted around before setting down 2 open cans of soda on the desk. Afterwards, we continued to talk about what was going on in my life, but it wasn't long before I passed out from whatever drugs Dr. Tanner had placed in my drink. It took me a minute or so to adjust my blurred vision upon waking, and when it did, I had no idea what to think. I was handcuffed to a bed, and my mouth was sealed with duct tape. I immediately began to panic, squirming and tugging at the cuffs, but gave up soon after. My eyes widened in disbelief after looking around the room. There were posters of superheroes pinned up along the walls and photographs of famous athletes on the shelves. In the middle of the room was an old television and Super Nintendo. Various game cartridges stacked alongside it. I didn't know what to think. Here I am in a room filled with items most kids would die to play with. I would have probably cried from joy hadn't I been handcuffed to a bed frame. My stomach sank once again as the door opened and Dr. Tanner walked inside. He sat down on the edge of the bed. Now listen, he said. Remember that I'm here to help you, and I would never hurt you, okay? Dr. Tanner gently removed the tape from my mouth and then the cuffs from my hands. My first instinct was to begin crying, but something about Dr. Tanner made me feel safe. He smiled at me. You're going to be staying here for a while, he continued, and during this time, you're allowed to play with any toys in this room while I'm at home. But when I leave this house, I'm going to cuff one of your hands back to the bed. You can still watch television, but I want you to only watch the news channels while I'm away. I sat in silence, still trying to process the information he had given me. So, Dr. Tanner yipped, slapping me on the knee. You go ahead and knock yourself out, kiddo. I'll be back when it's time for dinner. He got up from the bed, walked across the room, and clicked the TV's power button before locking the door behind him. Several more minutes passed before I realized that Dr. Tanner wasn't joking. All that was left for me to do was boot up the Nintendo, play Mario until it got dark. At about 7 p.m., Dr. Tanner returned to the room carrying 2 plates of mashed potatoes and chicken strips. I finally gathered up the courage to ask him how long I'd be staying in this room. Well, about a month, he replied. Give or take a few weeks. I just have some work I need to do. The following morning, I woke to Dr. Tanner's hand patting my head. Hey, bud, you don't have to wake up right now if you don't want to. I'm going to need to put this back on, he whispered, clamping the cold steel handcuff to my wrist. I gazed up at him. He was wearing a collared shirt and slacks, coat draped over his shoulder and a suitcase at his side. He looked just how I always did when I saw him around school. Before leaving, he placed the TV's remote next to me, told me to turn it on and watch the news. The first thing I saw upon turning it on was a breaking news segment. Important-looking police officers stood at a podium surrounded by people with microphones. I happened to begin viewing halfway through his speech. A statewide Amber Alert has been issued as of this morning. We have several investigators working towards identifying potential abductors, but as of right now, there is not much evidence. Faculty members state that the boy had been last seen around 4 or 5 in the evening on. I began to feel nauseous as a photograph of me appeared on the screen. It was my yearbook picture from last year. Captions for the autograph displayed my name and age, my school, and my town. Above my picture were alternating titles: FBI begins search for child, and kidnapping suspect unknown, and potential runaway. The live footage continued, and 2 figures I soon recognized were my mom and my dad as they stepped up to the podium. Both appeared to have reddened eyes. Tears streamed down my mother's face as she took hold of a microphone. I'd never seen so much emotion come from my mother before. as she wept live on television, stuttering on sentences such as, "Please return my baby back to me," and "I'm so sorry," and "Please come home to us." When my father took the microphone, I expected his attitude to be stone cold, but he had tears in his eyes too. He pleaded to the world to bring his son home safely. And lastly, he begged for my forgiveness, my forgiveness. I know I haven't been the best father, but God damn it, do I wish I had been now. Please bring my boy back. I turned the power off shortly after that. My emotions were mixed, for I had never once seen my father cry. I felt miserable that my parents were being put through so much, but at the same time, I felt relief. I now know how much my mom and dad loved me. Nearly 4 weeks passed, and Dr. Tanner had been treating me with the utmost respect. He leaves me in the morning, cupped to the bed frame, but returns in the afternoon to eat lunch and dinner with me, talk, play games. I never would have guessed how good Dr. Tanner was at Monopoly or Scrabble. But one morning, when Dr. Tanner woke me before heading off to work, I noticed a stern look on his face. I also realized that it was 3 hours earlier than when he normally wakes me. "You need to watch the news today. No exceptions. I want you to keep the television on all day. Pay close attention to it." I, of course, complied and watched him exit the room. About 2 hours later, a breaking news segment interrupted the toothpaste commercial I was watching. The title read, "Human Remnants Found." 2 staunch-looking men in suits stood aside one another and began speaking. "We are displeased to bring up such unfortunate news this morning regarding our missing child case from earlier this month." One of the men bowed his head while the one speaking shuffled through some papers. "Remains of a body have been found in a garbage bag beneath a highway overpass. The body appears to be that of a child, although not much of it is left. The body has been decapitated and much has been burnt to ash and bone." The screen shifted over a helicopter view of the freeway. Dozens of police cars gathered near the bottom of a tall overpass. The man's voice could still be heard. "Within the bag, police found a junior high school identification card." The screen showed the school ID card I always kept in my backpack. The plastic was sort of melted away, but my photograph and name were intact. After the 2 men dismissed themselves, the camera panned over to my parents. They were with the reporters. My mother's face held a painful grimace, and my father sulked his head down at his knees. I shut the television off. Dr. Tanner returned home very late. He hurried into the room, unlocked my cuffs, and placed a bottle of fizzing water into my hand. He placed his hand onto my shoulders and smiled. "I made you a promise, didn't I?" I nodded, tears squeezing their way out of my eyes. "You need to make a promise again," he whispered. He told me that I needed to drink all the water in the bottle. It would help me sleep, and that from here on, I am never to tell anyone that I ever met him. I promised. "I told you I'm the best school psychologist in the world, didn't I?" And he was right. I woke later that night to find myself lying in the middle of a park, stars shining brilliantly across the night sky. I recognized the park. It wasn't too far from my school. A mile or so down the road, I saw my house. The lights were off inside, but I could make out my father sitting on the step leading to the front door. I hesitantly called out to him. He lifted his head slowly, but when he saw it was me, he sprang to his feet, ran towards me, arms open, yelling my name. My mother erupted from the house behind him. Dr. Tanner was right. Things have changed with my family. My parents smile more often and treat me lovingly. I could not ask for a more perfect ending. Every now and then, I see Dr. Tanner on campus, walking to and from his office. Rarely do we ever make eye contact, let alone speak to one another. But sometimes he'll shoot me a look and smile. I'll always keep my promise to him and pretend I never met him. there will always be one question forever floating in my mind. Who in the hell did Dr. Tanner decapitate and throw off the overpass?
Oh, that was the burning question.
Oh, shit. Okay, guys, thank you so very much for tonight. Thank you so very much for being here. I hope you like that story. That story comes to us from Creepypasta. I'm going to throw the link in again. Oh,
That was
there's
another
no
one
link.
you hadn't finished, right?
No, I know. I just okay. When I'm looking, guys, usually when I'm looking about an hour before the show, and I'll just read the first paragraph. I'll just read the first one or two paragraphs, and I'll be like,
Yep.
okay, this looks good, you know. So it's like, yeah.
Well, James Andrew Morrison, that's part of stories like this. You never know. It doesn't get answered. You're left on a hook. Those kind of stories are awesome.
So, thank you so much, Adega, for being here today.
It's always fun. Thank you, everyone, for being here as well.
And we will be back. We've got Godzilla tomorrow.
Looking forward to this. Kaiju action.
Kaiju action. We've got Godzilla. We're going to have Coach from Echo Base. The Valkyries will be here. And we will have Dave Bob hanging out with us tomorrow.
All right. Dave Bob returns.
Everyone have a great one. And we will catch you guys next time.
Good night, folks.
These videos are tremendous. Like, comment, and subscribe, and hammer that notification bell.